All righty, it looks like we have everyone here. So this is Monday, October 26th, our briefings, and we'll have Frank go away.
Thank you, Commissioners. The first item we have is an item to amend the non-represented salary scale. Dawn, do you want to address that?
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
I've prepared a new copy of the resolution of our current salary scale, and we're requesting that the Commissioners do a general wage increase effective January 1, 2021 of 2% to keep parity with the collective bargaining agreements and those employees.
I'm good with moving it forward.
Yeah, same here. Just a quick question though, has that been or will that be available for this afternoon's budget workshop as we look at our numbers?
Sorry.
Go ahead, Dawn.
I was going to say, I'm not sure, but I do know Jen is aware of it. I'm not sure if she's prepared to present any numbers with it. Her and I discussed that we do usually increase the extra help employees through this line too. So I know she's working on some kind of numbers. And those extra help that I'm referring to are those that they may be working in a collective bargaining shop, but they're not covered by the union agreement. So those fall under this too. So she was asking those kind of questions. So I would assume that she probably has that prepared.
We got a definite maybe.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, with a possibility.
Yeah.
Could go either way.
Yeah, I see Jennifer logged in.
Do you want to ask her again, Kevin?
Yeah, Jennifer just asked if this was going to be available for our budget workshop this afternoon or if that would come later.
I can have it available.
Whatever works best for you. I'm good with either way, but
Yeah, I'll try and have that available, and if not, we can talk about it at the next week's meeting.
okay, no problem.
I'm good with moving it ahead as well.
Okay, so I'll put that on the November 3rd action agenda. And then the next thing I have is amendment to the personnel policy, which is amending chapter 4.3 for comp time. Currently, we've been bargaining into all of our collective bargaining agreements, the adoption of not rolling over comp time. So in our collective bargaining agreements, in our personnel policy, non-exempt staff can accrue up to 40 hours per year, and usually that gets rolled over. But we're asking that this be amended to reflect the same thing Frank has been bargaining into the unions, that says you can't roll it over. You don't lose it, but you get paid out on your last paycheck of the year, each year annually. And that would, in effect, pay the person at the current wage they're earning it at, rather than in a future wage, which may be higher. So that reduces our liability at the county level on that section. And then the next section is chapter 7.10, and we're asking to include Christmas holiday as a holiday, again, to bring parity to the collective bargaining units in that aspect.
The accrued leave, is that on their anniversary date or at the end of the calendar year?
It's not their accrued leave, it's their comp time that they've earned.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it would be at the end of the calendar year. If they haven't used it, then it would be paid out on the December 25th payroll. So if somebody had 40 hours, they would get an additional 40 hours on their December 25th payroll.
Gotcha.
There's a handful of non-represented, non-exempt staff members that we have. For example, the switchboard or the clerk of the board, those are all non-exempt positions.
Well, I'm good with it. Jennifer, can we also have that on our afternoon briefing and get the cost?
Yeah, I'll try and have that available for 2 o'clock.
I'm good as well.
Okay, thank you. I'll move that one forward also to November 3rd. That's all I have, commissioners.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Don.
The next item we have is is a review of the CARES Act expenditures. And I forwarded over the weekend an update on the CARES Act fund proposed distribution and allocation report. First item I wanted to highlight was that given all of the items that we've identified that the board would like to include for CARES Act distribution, the last of which was a $780,000 the sheriff's office body and vehicle cameras, has brought the amount of the distribution and allocation above the dollar amount of what's available in the fund. So technically the fund is potentially overspent $236,000 at this point. So somewhere we're going to need to make an adjustment or pick that up at the end as being funded out of the general fund directly. But there are some options and opportunities that we can talk about to kind of address that issue. So the second item that I wanted to bring forward or identify was that the Hood Canal delinquent accounts for $105,000, their ask is still on this list. And I'd like to know what the board's sense or consensus is on whether or not to put forward a subrecipient agreement contract with them to assist them with those delinquent account payment requests that they put forward to the board previously.
I support this. It's still a utility and we need to help. There's a lot of students that are using this and they couldn't, if we can't help them, who's going to?
Well, I would just say, I think the PUD Wi-Fi hotspots were is my response to that. My concern again is, opening it up this way is, and not having them go through the EDC for a business grant opens us up to having to consider the same requests from Comcast and Wave and iFiber One, and we're already overspent. I think there are some other things on here that I have concerns with, but I think there's other avenues that they could get support, maybe not at the same amount, but that they could get support to help offset some of these costs. And I think we've funded alternatives with our public partners.
I believe this belongs in the EDC request also for businesses. It makes sure that any request goes directly, is directly for a Mason County business. We're opening it up to a utility that way will put us in an opportunity to be 6 times greater the amount of money that has to come out just to be equal with the other ones, and it seems like a great risk to me. I think this is a better set in the EDC's business proposal for Mason County businesses.
Well, it's not really going to the business though, and it's been stated in the CARES funding that this is assisting the citizens, it's not assisting the business. And so, in another argument, I don't see, there's a lot of kids that can't make it to the PUD hotspots either because they don't have transportation, their parents are working. There's so many other issues. And so I still support it.
And again, Commissioner, that they have one, at least maybe as much as 1/3 of what Waves has, and they have 1/3 of what Comcast has. So that means that, we still have 6 times more that we'd have to do. And we can't, in my opinion, we can't do everything. So I'd like to put it towards the EDC request.
So, Commissioner Trask, to those points, how do you view Wave and Comcast? I mean, how do you make those two work then?
Well, they're all utilities. and they're all going to delinquent accounts. With the CARES funding, there are certain things that we can help with and certain things that we can't help with. They did say that helping people retain their utilities is definitely in there. If we were helping, you couldn't help the ports or we couldn't help the cities. I know that there was a suggestion that maybe the city could come through, but they are specifically noted that you can't help another government entity, but you can help customers with their utilities.
I'll remind you, we also still have our own. We have water and sewer and stuff that if we're going to look at it, I think we should be looking at the ones that are directly under us.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. And it is my hope and prayer that the federal government is going to send us a little bit more assistance during these times, because there's a lot of need out there. And I know that we're not going to be able to help everyone, but I'd like to help those that we can.
Oh, the question is do we keep it on this list and create a subrecipient, or do I hear at this time have them go through the EDC?
Again, we're not assisting their business, we're assisting their customers.
Correct.
Well, let's go through the other ones and see where else we might be willing to cut in order to make this one work.
Okay, so the next item then is the ask that the Sheriff's Department had put forward, and that is the $780,000 for the body cameras and the vehicle cameras. And that was included at this stage into this list. The last two items are the request by the YMCA and the request by the North Mason Boys and Girls Club for daycare assistance. The YMCA was only for 1 month's worth of funding, which is about $13,000, and the North Mason Boys and Girls Club was a request for $75,000, but that would go for a couple of months at least, and we would probably need to cut that back to a smaller number. I haven't been able to get that information from the Boys and Girls Club of North Mason.
Right, and I think at this point in time, we can only go through the end of November.
That's correct. So that's why for the Y, we would only be able to fund 1 month, the month of November for them.
Right, and it would be the same for the Boys and Girls Club, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would assume it's about the same, around 12, 13,000.
And just when were those requests received?
The Boys and Girls Club was in June or July, and the Y was about the same time.
And which ones are up and functioning right now?
The North Mason Boys and Girls Club, the Y will open in November.
I'm definitely supportive of those. I wish we would have taken action earlier, been able to help out a little bit more with those, but I remain supportive of getting them what we can for at least November.
Yep, I feel the same way.
Okay. So we still have the question in regards to the cameras. And with the reduction of the North Mason Y, the 236 would be $60,000 less.
Yep.
Well, I just want to point out to one of the concerns that I have with committing to the body cameras, aside from some of the other conversations that we've had in previous briefings, is that commits us to a 2021 current expense component as well, with having to increase staffing there. That I think we're trending the wrong way overall in our 21 budget ads, especially given where we were with our guidelines and that kind of thing. So I do want to urge a little bit of caution with that decision, in that it is not just body cams. It is an FTE that we have to consider in the 21 budget as well.
And that was projected to be about $80,000 fully loaded.
I just thought about something that it just crossed my mind. If we were to buy these cameras now, if the state does decide to cover it, do you think they'll actually cover something that already exists in a county or a city?
I don't think you would get paid back for that.
Yeah, that just hit me. That could put us in quite a position where we lose that money. Especially, one of the things we've talked about is going after that CARES fund for wages and stuff, because that's easier for us to safely take in. We'd be better off maybe earmarking that money for that rather than taking it out and doing it now if we can't get the money back.
So speaking to that point, again, in your report, I segregated those items for which we've already entered into contract: the hotspots and the economic support through the EDC and the delinquent accounts. So that represents $1,280,000 out of the $5,211,000 that we have contracted with for services as a subrecipient agreement. What that leaves, the balance then, instead of paying for using the CARES Act to purchase building 10 quarantine and isolation facilities, additional cleaning, masks, supplies, the IT components for laptops and teleworking, those items can be used can be paid for by submitting a request to CARES for up to $6,376,000 worth of public safety payroll, get that reimbursed, and then use the general fund to purchase these other items or to pay for these other items directly, and not support it under the CARES reimbursement process.
Right. I feel more comfortable doing that, having gotten confirmation from Commerce and from the federal government that 100% of their salary is covered through the CARES Act.
And that's for salary in the 9-month period between
March
1st and November 30th, the end of November 30th.
Right. It also covers our health department's salaries as well, and supportive staff.
Correct. And again, only those salaries that are not covered under a different grant or being funded by a different grant currently within the public health department.
Right.
There, Dave Wyndham had identified about $400,000 worth of payroll that he could recover via that process on the public health side.
Right.
So the question still remains that body camera process and system will require a supplemental staff in the 2021 person of about $80,000.
True. So I do have one additional question regarding going after the salaries for making up the difference that way. As a hypothetical, the governor responds positively to our request to extend for another month until December 31st for expending this money. Have we cut ourselves off then at that point from providing other types of so I guess where I'm going with this is, what is our comfort level then if we got the remainder reimbursed to salaries in the interim? Then would other requests then not be eligible since they would have to come out of the general fund? Or how would we protect ourselves from gifting funds in that way?
So the ones where we have had a subrecipient agreement, would be those that might be questionable. That's why we would then segregate this purchase or the reimbursement request to the Department of Commerce to request for those separately, the $1,280,000. And then there would be no question whatsoever as to whether or not there's a gifting of public funds. If the balance of the dollars come in through a request for public safety payroll reimbursement, the board is at its discretion to decide whether to reimburse itself for purchases of masks, safety, PPEs, special cleaning, scanners that were purchased, body scanners, courthouse scanners, assisting in Building 10, and all of those items, they would not fall under the auditable issues for the CARES Act. The board can decide to purchase what they decide to purchase and can supplement whatever funds it receives into any category that it wants.
Right, and I get that part of it. I'm saying, but for other things that might be new requests or requests that we, for instance, a great example would be with PUD3, the Wi-Fi hotspots. We funded half of their request. Would a decision in the direction that you're suggesting then preclude us from distributing funds on the other half of that request? I think that's probably the clearest example.
If I may, Frank, my request of Frank to look into was the idea of double billing, billing for a lot more or billing them for a lot more so that we have redundancy to come back on. That would allow us the opportunity to use them how we feel. And if it's questionable, it could be used as gifted public funds, has to come out of the CARES Act. And maybe we can do that after the fact. Do you remember that conversation, Frank, about billing for the whole amount that we have, even though they only have so much money?
Right, and we can bill for up to the amount of the CARES Act grant that is currently available. So to answer your question directly, Commissioner Schutte, unless there's an increase in the CARES Act dollars, or we ask for a change in our reimbursement request. In other words, if we were to ask for how much is available, $3,931,000 in payroll reimbursement under public safety, that would bring us up to the $5,211,000 of CARES funds available. We could ask that we reduce that $3,931,000 for public safety payroll by, let's say, $31,000, and get reimbursement up to the $3,900,000, and then ask for supplemental reimbursement of the $31,000 because you'd like to apply it to the hotspots or to some other program for that's available or that would be eligible under the CARES Act funding. Did that make sense?
A little bit, yeah.
So in other words, if we ask for public safety payroll dollars, then we've maxed out our grant. If we want to add something that might be questionable as far as a gifting of public funds that otherwise would be eligible under the CARES Act, then we would supplement the request and say, reduce my CARES Act by $155,000, reduce my request for payroll supplement reimbursement by $155,000 and supplement the county for the $155,000 of the second tranche of the hotspots request. So I would have to change my reimbursement request in order to make that happen.
Have we sought reimbursement for anything yet?
Yes.
And have we gotten it?
Yes.
Yes.
Relatively quickly.
Right. An example of that would be the EDC.
Correct.
That we had the EDC use.
So where you have in your spreadsheet, Frank, paid, does that mean that's been reimbursed to us?
No, that means that we, as the county, have paid for it.
Mm-hmm. All right, Frank, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we've been reimbursed for, it was either 2 or 3 different items.
We've been reimbursed for the $325,000 for the EDC first tranche. And we've been reimbursed, I believe, for the $20,000 of the supplemental EDC first tranche payment request. And it came within 2 weeks, I think.
Right, right. The turnaround was amazing, and they were so helpful with Kelly and helping her and get those requests through.
So given the timing that we have and the amount of public safety payroll dollars that we have, which is much more than the balance of the CARES funding that we can request for reimbursement, we can hold back on some of those requests until the November 30th timeframe, because we have until December 15th to put in the request. So the board can make a decision to do a request for, instead of the $3,931,000, it could ask for $3,500,000 and have $431,000 still available for it to use to assist in what would have been deemed gifting of public funds, but is eligible under the CARES Act funding at that point in time.
Right, and that could include the hotspots.
Correct. Or any other item that comes up.
Right.
Yeah,
As
we
long
don't,
as it's been before November 30th.
correct. We don't have to ask for the full amount from the payroll, public safety payroll reimbursement. We can ask for something less and leave some room in those funds that can be reimbursed through CARES eligibility.
So Frank, you feel that we can't, even though we understand they won't be reimbursing us any other money, you feel that we can't turn in more claims in case something breaks loose, or some of that other money they're holding on to gets released, or anything? We can only keep it to the limit that we have right now? Because I thought when we were talking, it seemed like a good protective thing to have more claims in than money coming out.
Yeah, we can ask for more claims. They will just deny it.
Nope, and I appreciate that. The reason why the asking for more claims, though, was to protect us on some of those other issues for gifting.
Correct. But we have to make a determination of what we're asking for reimbursement by December 15th.
Well, the full amount of the wages, just
The full amount,
put it in there, and they may only give us up to a certain dollar amount, but that'll keep us protected if something else happens and it gets kicked back, that we can have it turned immediately into those other dollars.
but we would have had to have asked for it by December 15th.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Ask for the full thing, the
Yes.
full amount. They may only reimburse us a certain amount, but if something falls through, it's a protective thing for us. And we won't. Nobody will challenge that one, or could challenge that one for gifting. It's all internal funds.
All of the other purchases are internal funds. That's absolutely correct. And the board can decide to pay for those directly out of the general fund. And the CARES Act reimbursement request would just reimburse the general fund.
Yes. It just seems like a safe, an extra safe precaution. A little bit more work, but the safety blanket it gives us seems great.
So that leaves the question of how to deal with the sheriff's office body cameras and whether or not to fully request public safety dollars as a reimbursement to blanket all of the other general fund expenditures.
I don't know that the state is going to reimburse anything. I think they have a huge deficit, so I can't see them saying, yeah, we're going to pay for every county, every city's body cams.
They are facing a huge deficit, absolutely. And
So why then, I mean, why, so maybe, I mean, maybe the way to deal with that is, since there is uncertainty, just cover that part of it for sure with, reimbursement for wages, and then set that money aside to have that conversation next year when there is clarity from the legislature.
You mean set aside the purchase of the body cams?
Yeah.
we could do it that way, and then deal with all of the audit questions around the documentation for the purchases of PPE, other sliding doors, the scanners, the body scanners, building 10, the teleworking laptops, and all of those other items. Then we have those auditable items as well. Not that there's any question about the audit, other than it's just a complexity in next year's auditing.
So you think it makes more sense to do the body cams than to do telework laptops from an audit perspective?
No, what I'm suggesting is that from an audit perspective, it would be easier to defend one audit item, the public safety payroll, and request a reimbursement for $3,931,000 for that, rather than deal with 20 different audit items for scanners, for sliding doors, for PPE, for cleaning supplies, for extra cleaning services, and on down the item list that we've already identified and paid for in most cases.
Right, and my point was, instead of using, like, take your body cameras off of this line item and convert that 800,000 back into salary reimbursement.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And then let's deal with the body cameras next year when we have clarity from the legislature.
That would work as well. I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah.
No, if we took that off and added, instead of 3,000,009, 4,000,008, or whatever it comes to, added that to the payroll request, because we have capacity in the public safety payroll, to increase that by the $780,000, put the money in the general fund and deal with it next year. Absolutely.
You mean set that money aside for
Correct.
the body?
Correct.
Because I mean, ultimately, would just go to, I mean, it would cover the salaries, which would then
Correct.
essentially be moved to ending fund balance at that point, right?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is remove the body cameras from this list, increase the dollar amount of the public safety payroll reimbursement request, and then put aside in ending fund balance that $780,000 for utilization next year.
I mean, that was my opinion. Just one.
I'll back that up. For now, it just seems like, especially since, as we just talked about, we know that if we pay it out, we won't get it back. Well, 90% chance we won't get it back.
Correct.
So it makes more sense to do it this way than it does the other.
And then it becomes simply a timing issue of when to order it for the sheriff's office.
But then I'm sure they'll give us a cushion. They're not going to say you have to have it by Wednesday.
Well, next session, it starts in January. And so it just depends. I mean, it's the legislature. They can either move slow or they can move fast. It just depends on their passion for an item.
Well, I'm sure their passion will be high on it, but I'll bet you they'll give us a year to fulfill. The question is, will they pay for it?
No,
There is.
I wouldn't count on it. I would not count on it.
I hear there's a push to get them to pay for it because they want it.
There is.
They want it everywhere, but maybe our lawsuit with the Association of Counties will have some effect on that question.
Yeah, I can almost guarantee that they will not pay for it.
So the consensus I'm hearing is to remove the body cameras from this allocation, replace it with reimbursement requests for public safety payroll dollar reimbursements, and then allocate those, or just identify those dollars in ending fund balance for availability next year when we find out whether or not the state's going to fund that item or not. And if not, then use those dollars.
I agree.
Okay. Last item, just to be complete in our conversation. So under the Public Health Cares Act dollars, there are $1,389,000 available to the Public Health Department for CARES eligible items. And Dave Wyndham had identified in his most recent allocation approximately $400,000 worth of of eligible public health salaries that he can request reimbursement for from CARES. Those are, again, for dollars that have already been spent and are not covered under another grant from another entity. So if he gets that reimbursement, then the Public Health Department would have an additional $400,000 reimbursed to their ending fund balance at the end of the year. That may make the $379,000 that's budgeted from the general fund over to the Public Health Fund for 2021 budgeting not necessary.
Now, Frank, would we be able to, because I know that their contact tracing is not going to go away. And if we do not receive funding from the federal government or from the state to assist us with that, could we use that for the extra help that they might need?
Absolutely. I mean, you could use it for anything, because at that point, it becomes the purview of the board how to spend those dollars.
Right. And I know that they're going to need, I mean, this pandemic is not going to go away as much as we would like it to. And so I would like to be able to make sure that we have the assistance needed over there.
So I will work with Dave and with Casey to come up with a much closer estimate of how much public health payroll dollars are eligible for CARES reimbursement, so that we can identify how much of that they can put aside for contact tracing. The public health side of CARES is available to be spent through the end of December, because the Department of Health is matching the timeline that the US Treasury offers for spending CARES dollars, which is until December 31st. The Department of Commerce has backed that up 30 days, and their window is only through the end of November. Department of Health has their window through the end of December. So any contract tracing that he may incur in December would still be recoverable under CARES. But in order to put a bank of dollars available, he may need to use his public health payroll dollars, ask those to be reimbursed, and then put that in the bank as additional ending fund balance increases for contact tracing costs that he may incur in 2021.
All right, I believe he also has some grants that don't expire until June, the end of June.
Correct. So I'll work with Casey and with Dave to get a better handle on what this impacts their department, how this impacts their department and their ending fund balance.
Great. Thank you.
And that's all I have on that one. Next item is Ross with a request to purchase 2 Jefferson JAVS systems. Ross?
Ross, you're muted.
You're muted.
Ross, can't hear you.
There we go.
There we go. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong one there. Well, good morning, commissioners. I've been asked to look at purchasing 2 of the Jefferson audio video systems, otherwise known as JAVS systems, for Building 10, for District Court and Superior Court to use over there. I was contacted by Patsy, who I see is on today, through TJ, that stated that they were going to look at purchasing those for Building 10. And as I looked into them, once you add up the dollar amount, it ends up being $119,000. So that would kick into our purchasing policy, which states we would have to get sealed bids unless there's some kind of an exemption. And there is an exemption for this one under a couple of different things. The biggest one is JAVS owns JAVS. There's only one system that's there. They install it. They do everything themselves. It's a sole source. And as you can see, I did the sole source justification form you should have with you, which does show that it's a special design, special consultant, and warranty service. And it also goes with what we already have, which this would complement our previous JAVS purchases. So what they would like to do is use some of the AOC CARES Act dollars to purchase one. And there was an agreement between the District Court and Superior Court. They agreed that using the second one would be paid for out of the trial improvement funds. So we're at the point of saying we need to get a resolution stating that you agree that this is a sole source. And if we get that, we can go ahead and then start ordering it and get it ready to go. So I'm asking to go at the next available BOCC meeting to get the authorization and for you guys to adopt a resolution that it is a sole source.
It's good with me.
Yes.
I'm good.
Thank you. I don't know if Patsy wants to add anything else in.
Well, the only thing I would add is, number one, thank you. The need to expedite the one that's going to be paid for with the CARES funds, because I've got to submit that before the end of the year. And I only have until December to do that, so.
I believe our next meeting, commission meeting is the 3rd of November.
And the reason for that is also, Todd was going to get on and let you know that there are a lot of courts out there who have utilized the CARES funds money to purchase new recording systems. So I can get it ordered. The sooner I can get it ordered, the sooner I get it on the installation calendar. But they have multiple courts out there who have taken advantage of this CARES funds to purchase new recording equipment.
So November 3rd is okay? Would that be, I mean, that's the soonest we can do it. That's next Tuesday.
If that's as soon as we can do it, then I'm good with that. Thank you.
Thank you, commissioners. Then the next item we have is a review of the contract for the second round of EDC funding. Jennifer?
Thank you, Frank. So yes, this is the second round of funding contract. It's basically the exact same contract, except with the changes that are provided in the executive summary. So $300,000 to businesses, but instead of providing up to $10,000 for each grant, it would be $15,000 for businesses with less than 20 employees, or up to $30,000 to qualifying businesses with 21 or more employees. And then there's a provision in here for up to 20,000 to serve for up to 4 nonprofits, a double dipping disclaimer, and there's no money provided to the EDC, no additional money provided to the EDC. Like the first one, we had 25,000 to administer the contract. And then the effective date of the agreement would be through November 30th. So does the commission have any questions, comments on this second round?
Yeah, I thought we had a discussion in the last one where they were not going to be, they would still be able to apply if they had received funds in the past. I don't see that in here. It could easily be rectified with just a change in the words. It says includes a double dipping disclaimer. Businesses who did not receive equal to or greater than 5,000 in COVID-19 support grants will be given preference. And that would still allow us to give them it, because if we can save the business, I think it's important that we save the business if we really honestly believe that's the issue.
Okay, so take that out then, the double dipping, is everybody in agreement with that?
No, we wanted to still give preference to people that didn't get anything.
Okay.
At least the last we discussed, commissioners.
Yeah, I think just flipping the wording so that it allows for a preference for for first-time applicants versus restricting second-time applicants is the way to go.
And after the commission meeting, I can share the words with you if the other commissioners are comfortable with that. Again, it's just replacing the words includes a double dipping disclaimer. Businesses who did not receive equal or greater than 5,000 in COVID-19 support grants will be given preference.
Can you say that one more time? But leave out the replacing part.
Yeah, that, huh?
Just the new language.
Okay, yeah, the new language would read includes a double dipping disclaimer, businesses who did not receive equal to or greater than 5,000 in COVID-19 support grants will be given preference. Otherwise, they get a little extra added weight. We just didn't give a number. I know we asked for a number, but it could be done at the time if we change those words.
Yep. I like it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I thought that was kind of weird to have that in there, but just put it together like.
Well, in the original ones by Commerce, they didn't allow it.
Right.
Okay.
So now, commissioners, what do you think about the 15 compared to the normal 10? Since if we're only looking at 300,000 and not the other 6 like we were talking about, is less more, or
were you thinking like 10 and 15?
Yeah, or 10 and 20.
I mean, I'm fine with that. I think every little bit helps a lot of these folks, so that'd be okay.
Yeah, I'd go according to their need.
Oh, there's a big difference there.
Well, no, you have the set amount, but then it's applied according to their need.
Oh, okay. So the set amount, because
up to
maybe 300,000. So are you comfortable then with 10 and 20, and then according to their need added in there? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, well, I would say that it's probably a given that it's according to their need, but if we want to add it in, that's fine too.
Okay. But 10 or 20?
Yeah.
10 and 20? Okay.
10 or 20 instead of 15 or 30? Is that what you're saying, Commissioner?
That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, so we're going to provide up to 10,000 to qualifying businesses with less than 20 employees, and or up to 20,000 to businesses with 21 or more employees. Correct? Okay, thank you. Okay, and everybody's good with the nonprofit piece in there?
I think if that's going to be in there, I think it should be at 10.
I'm good with that.
Right,
Yeah,
up to 10,000 to serve up to 4 nonprofits.
yeah.
Or, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and I think that's it. And the 300,000 is a good amount total.
Last I heard, is anybody interested in 6?
Let's go with the
Well, I was, but we keep hearing those other numbers that,
We don't have the funds.
yeah.
Okay, so do we then, with these changes, have permission from the board to place this on the November 3rd action agenda for
Yes,
approval?
please, with a thank you to EDC. I can't believe they pull off all this stuff that they're doing. I really can't.
Yeah, agreed.
Great, okay, thank you. As a side note to the CARES Act funding, I do have a verbal question into Chelsea with SAO on the billing side of things and how that's going to work. So if I find anything out, I'll let everybody know.
If they give a red flag, then in my opinion, we need to take it out before that vote. If they even are worried, if we don't get a green flag, I should say, I don't want to set us in a position where we're in trouble at the end of this thing because we are acting expediently, but we don't have any choice but to act expediently.
Yeah.
What do you think, commissioners?
Yeah, I'll just wait for Jennifer's update, but I appreciate that concern.
Yeah, I'll wait until you hear back.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. The next item is the permit fee for the city of Shelton for Building 10. So with the expediting of the construction at Building 10, we've received a permit for the asbestos abatement. We've also received a permit for the seismic work that's going on in Building 10. The TI, the tenant improvement work, had a delay in getting its permits through all of the departments within the city, most importantly, the fire department. And so we received the permit for the city's TI, which is $110,000. So we're looking for approval to pay that. Within that $110,000 is an $88,000 traffic impact fee, which will predominantly be part of the second final phase of the construction, but the city is requesting that that be paid up front. In addition to that, we have a request from Colvos, the contracting company, for a 15-day delay. Our hope was that we would get this by October 1st. We ended up receiving the permit on October 15th. So there is a construction delay of $62,225. Then the item that was part of the reason for the delay was the fire department's request that an egress area be put in the back of the building for fire egress, which is ADA compliant, which requires an ADA ramp in the back of the building to the exterior of the building that would be acceptable by the fire department. So the contractor has put in a change order request to accommodate those, or to accommodate that of $209,000. So we're asking for approval to make those increases in the Building 10 construction.
Frank, where would that be paid out of then?
REIT 2.
Okay.
I'm sorry, REIT 1.
Route 1.
Yes.
Okay.
I will move those forward for the next board meeting, regular meeting. And then the last item,
Necessary. No way around it, Tom.
unfortunately, no. The next item is a request for a weapons screening contract. Kelly?
Kelly had to step out for his meeting, Frank, and he said that you had planned to talk about it, but he asked me to let you know he was away from his desk right now.
Oh, and I don't have the documentation for it, but we had previously put forward an RFP for weapon screening back in August, I believe it was. And we did pick a contractor, which is the current contractor for that weapon screening. And he has put forward a contract with a minor increase for 2021 that we would like to put on the action agenda for authority to enter into.
Now, we did get briefed on this, but what is exactly the increase that we're talking about?
I have that information, commissioners. The armed guard increase is going from 2189 to 2607 per hour. And the way it will be structured with 2 armed and 1 unarmed in a 9-hour day, they have staggered shift to alleviate overtime unless a rare circumstance occurs. But they have it planned out, and Kelly did say that he has this amount is already budgeted in his existing budget. It can be absorbed.
Okay. Well, the way that it's put into our briefing packet here, it doesn't show it as an increase that way. It just shows that that's the amount is 2607. So what you wouldn't know what the unarmed guard was then, do you?
I don't.
That's the number.
I'm sorry. It actually is 2607 per hour for armed and 2189 for unarmed. So I guess I don't know what the previous rates were.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry. I read that better.
Also, we need to think about security screening for Building 10 and getting a sense for what that'll cost as part of this contract or as an amendment or whatever. But we need to start planning for that as well.
Agree.
I will get details on what the staffing and the contract change for that would be.
And then you'll bring it back.
And then do we want to bring it back, or that would be, we can use that as an addendum to, or amendment to the contract? Bring this.
I don't think that should hold this up necessarily. I just think I wanted to say that for planning purposes into 21 as Building 10 gets ready to open. It probably can't open without security screening. So
Correct.
Agreed.
I don't want to hold it up either. I think it's 2 separate things. But, get it out there, though, because Commissioner's correct. We have to have it. If we're going to be doing this, we have to have it in place.
Yep. And so I'll get the details for that then. That's all we had. We had one item for commissioner discussion.
I was waiting for an email for the official, but it looks like Bremerton is going to be the fiduciary for the Gorst coalition. So hopefully we can move forward.
yeah, I'm fine with that. Just when you get it forwarded on, so it's part of our packet.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I asked for it, but even just now I didn't get a reply yet.
Yeah, best laid plans. I understand.
Yeah. But in talking to one of the co-chairs, he said that they are doing it. I just wanted something official.
Agreed.
So can we put that on the agenda, or how are we going to do that for our next meeting?
I'm fine with it as long as, just look, when you get that, just forward it so that it's available for the meeting packet next week.
We'll have it beforehand, or we don't do it. I'm clear. I'm good with that.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
And that's all we have, commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
All right, so now we have Public Works.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you, commissioners?
Good, and you?
Good. Good. Well, we will try and maybe make up some time for you. How's that sound?
Thank you.
Great.
All right. Should be fairly straightforward items this morning, commissioners. We've got a hearings examiner decision that we want to move to action, and just some standard purchasing updates. And actually, commissioners, at some point, we'd like to come back with you here in the near future and just visit about if there's some way to kind of streamline some of these items in terms of decision making and how much time you want to spend on briefing versus going to action. If you're open to that, we'd love to share some thoughts with you on how to go about that.
Are we making us more efficient? Wow.
Yes, please. But and balance transparency about what our business is. So we want to be mindful about that as well. All right, with that, Mike's got the hearings examiner recommendation for road vacation 405.
So the hearings examiner had a hearing in August 26, 2020 to consider the petition of Union City Partners LLC request for vacation of portion of Sharp Street that lays adjacent to the west of Block 92, lots 1 through 30, plat of Union Hood Canal Land Improvement Company addition to Union City. Now that is one heck of a plat. So they had the they had the hearing, and we're recommending the board to consider the hearings examiner's recommendation to approve the vacation and put it on the action agenda.
This one does not include any compensation, correct?
This does not include, this was prior to change the Mason code.
And I thought it was. I have, again, we all know my record on that. I'll go the same as I always do, but I'm not going to stand in its way. It just, I have to vote no on it until we change that. I was talking to an attorney from the city of Tacoma, and they were saying that they're shocked that we don't charge the full amount on some of these because they have to by law. It's a gifting. So hopefully we've been talking to Tim a little bit.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Mike.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say I'm supportive of moving forward. Just, do you have an idea of how many we still have in the pipeline under the previous rules?
I believe 3 or 4 more.
I believe 3 for sure. I believe 4 total.
Great, thank you.
Yes.
Just moving it forward.
Yes, commissioners?
Oh, I said I was good with moving it
Oh,
forward.
okay.
Okay.
Alrighty.
All right.
Okay.
The next item is call for bids for striping, chip seal oil, culverts, and chip rock itself, along with the asphalt. So Mason County Public Works annually calls for bids for these items, and just routine setup. So we recommend the board to authorize Public Works to advertise and set bid openings for these items.
Good with me.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Be one of the items we would like to discuss about later. So next item is a private line occupancy permit. Gail Otto, manager of Lettuce Loaf LLC.
I was wondering if you were going to be able to say that without laughing.
We like that name.
Applied for a private line occupancy permit. Here we go. To install a new underground water line replacing the existing water line. So this is a pretty common occurrence in this area on the North Shore. So we would recommend the board to approve the private line permit.
I'm good.
I'm good with putting it on the agenda.
Same.
Now the good stuff.
Yeah, now we're to Mike's favorite here.
Small market value purchase of 2 bucket trucks. Public Works is looking to acquire these 2 bucket trucks for the road crew. To be used for cutting back overhead vegetation, reduce potential vehicle strikes, but it's also a public safety item, to be more proactive and removing these potentially dangerous trees. North Shore Road comes to mind. We'd like to get fairly aggressive with the PUD and be proactive of taking some of these things down, so we don't have the trees come down with power lines, and emergency vehicles can pass through if we get a little more proactive about it. So it is budgeted in 2020 road fund, so we have the money to cover it.
And just to clarify, aggressive with PUD means in partnership, not twisting arms.
Mike, the only question I have on it, I'm supportive of this, but I have a hard time, we're buying so close to new, and the savings is not that great for that amount of time on a 2018. My question is, can we truly justify it? Are we going to use it enough to justify buying that new for both of them?
Yes, I plan on implementing a program for the fall and spring that these vehicles will be used, if not constantly. That's the plan. Every fall and spring we should have a cutting crew in operation. And we have enough crew members. I see that's not a problem to be able to do that.
Okay. You're going to send them out for the training?
Yes, we'll do whatever required. Bucket trucks don't have to have training, but yes, we definitely.
No, but the tree trimming does. Remember, that's one of the things I did for a living. And
yes,
you want that training.
Yes, absolutely. 100%.
Mike, supportive of this, but is this purchase, is this replacing something else or in 2020, or is this was this specifically cooked into our 2020 budget?
This will affect the 2021 budget. The ER&R request is to purchase an additional bucket truck that we wouldn't have to have if we get these 2.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, I've always admired the PUDs and how they've maintained their roads and tried to keep the branches, the hazardous branches away. So I'm very supportive.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, commissioners. Then just a reminder that we've got our 6-year and annual construction hearing coming up next week. And on other items, I will be out of the office next week, unfortunately, so I'm going to miss that one. And Mike will be on first. So I know the weather forecast is looking pretty decent, but in the event of any emergencies or any action needing to be taken by the department, Mike will be your point person next week. And of course, if you've got utilities, as always, Richard will be there as well to respond to utility events that we may have going.
Great. A couple of questions, Mike and Loretta, on the tip.
Yes.
2 things. First off, is the 6-year or the 1 year where the wish list resides?
The 6-year.
Okay. I might be interested in having a conversation on adding a couple of things to the wish list, including some additional gravel road improvement projects. I don't know if those were included beyond what was planned for this year, or just if that was discussed at all at TIPCAP.
Yes, it was.
Okay, just to have some way of looking out beyond kind of the pilot program phase of it. And then the other one is, I think it would be, and I'm interested in commissioners' thoughts on this, but I think it would also be interesting to put on the wish list road connectivity between Log Yard and the Port of Bremerton, and starting to think through essentially that industrial loop concept that has been out there. And so I don't know the best way to approach that, but just starting to think about a little bit further out what that might look like.
Got it.
Commissioners, any thoughts? Or
Well, I know that in my opinion, we have a couple of projects that we need to be looking at and are supposed to be looking at, and we haven't got much of an update on the Romance Hill, but also the Razor Road connection. And I'd hate to see that knocked out because I think that's huge for many different reasons. So I just would like to be cautious that we keep things in perspective of what's most needed.
well, that's the whole point of a wish list.
Oh, I'm sorry, commissioners.
I didn't understand. What'd you say, Kevin? Sorry.
I was like, well, that's the kind of the point of a wish list, adding it to that parking lot, and just so we don't lose sight of.
I have no problem with that at all.
And TIPCAP has very similar recommendations, commissioners. So they also are recommending Razor Road actually to be advanced onto in priority, and also placing an emphasis on the gravel road upgrades as well.
The real sad part about the Razor Road thing in our business, it's always timing. We're doing that EIS, and the truth is if we were ever going to look at expanding the UGA, that would be an area we'd want to look at expanding to, because if we get that connector, that will be a huge opportunity for a residential hub for the UGA, for that Belfair UGA. That first part that it connects to on Highway 3 could literally skyrocket in housing quickly with access. Again, I don't know why I'm saying that. I'm just one of those things you're sad about as we're going through this process. I don't know if there's a way to even put that up if they move that forward quicker, which I love that they're looking to do.
Be nice to see the completed project.
Any other thoughts on the 6-year or questions on the 6-year annual, commissioners?
Well, if we're going to do the 6-year, if we're not going to get it on this year, going along with Commissioner Schuette's request, I'd like to, make sure that if it's still possible, it'd be nice to get some kind of placeholder for him on that project. If not, then we need to make sure it's in next year's. But
And by that, you mean the Log Yard and Port of Bremerton?
Yeah, Port of Bremerton.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Loretta, I just wanted to thank you guys for spending some time with me last week and talking about area projects as well.
You're welcome. Thank you. Also, Commissioner, while I'm thinking about it, I can't remember if I updated commissioners on the status of the rail grants. And I know that DOT local programs had been planning to announce whether or not we had received funding for the Coal Road project, that they're still anguishing over all of the applications they had. They have 11 million in total funds, and I believe they had close to 38 or 39 million in requests. So they're still wrestling with their priorities. And we will have another call for projects here before too long for bridge again and our highway safety improvement program.
Good. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Anything else? Any other quickie updates, Mike?
Just a update on the Sand Hill signs. We have they are here. We've marked for locates, and we'll schedule some actually installation soon.
Nice.
Any further news from DNR and what is that? Whoever has that power box up there on Belfort to you.
That was, that's CenturyLink. And they're still in discussion about what the cost would be. So they're running it up the chain of command.
But we've already changed the signs and the stop bar, correct?
Yes, sir.
I will go up there. I haven't gone up. I'll go up there and take a look and see how good that is. That may be.
And we talked with DNR. They were going to modify that trail to the north there.
Yeah, that's important. I think that's a recipe for disaster coming out of that angle through that intersection. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good Monday, commissioners.
Thank
too.
you.
Commissioners, before we go on to Sheryl, am I the only one that ended up with, I was trying to figure out how these matched with the Work in Washington 2.0 grading matrix for the EDC at the back of my my sheriff's.
I think it's a little reversed.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it did exist. It was just in the wrong place. And then
All right. Well, let's move on to the sheriff's office. Sheryl?
Hi there.
Good morning.
Morning.
You can see us and hear us. Good.
I don't
So,
see
good
any
morning.
us. I see you. Oh, there's a cup of coffee. Okay.
We're appropriately socially distanced in the conference room. The under sheriff is here as well as I. So this is just this is just an update. I don't know if you recall a couple of months ago, I told you we were keeping an pretty close eye on the budget, not only because of the CARES Act purchases, but because of having to absorb the CBA increases and extra money in the PPE. So this is I don't see it in your packet. I thought I sent these out. A spreadsheet. Did you guys get that?
I think I
Got a
did.
cover sheet.
Okay, I'll send it to you after this meeting. What I've done is taken a spreadsheet and tried to calculate not only what expenses we have so far this year, but projecting out through the end of the year based on the first 10 months. And it looks like even after the approved supplemental of $356,000, it looks like we're probably going to be overspent across the board by about $217,000. That's in both salaries and some in operations. The majority of that is overtime. And let's see, what else would you need to know about that?
Sheryl, is that breakdown included in the spreadsheet that you will send to us?
Yes,
Of what line items in particular?
it is. So just as a, for instance, admin wages and benefits are going to be underspent by $98,000. Admin operations overspent by $7,900. So that's broken down by all programs and wages and benefits. Excuse me. And these are projections, and they're what I know or believe is going to happen before the end of the year.
Sheryl, are you talking about moving from one, because I don't have it here in front of me as you just heard. Are you talking about moving from one fund to the other? Or are you talking about a busted budget?
I'm talking about a busted budget. I'm talking about $217,000 that I anticipate we're going to overspend in total. Already having accounted for the CARES Fund supplemental that has been approved.
Have you had a chance to talk with Jennifer?
I included the spreadsheet with Jennifer. I included Jennifer on the spreadsheet, but no, we haven't had a chance to talk about it. She's been a little busy.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, for starters, I'd like to take a look at the spreadsheet and maybe have a deeper conversation with Jennifer on it, and start thinking about some strategies. I don't know that I have a reaction one way or another as the world lays today.
I think I'd like to see the spreadsheet as well, and that way we have an idea of what's going on.
Hey, commissioners, if you don't mind, I could probably, just from historical perspective, give you a little idea what's going on. It's a kind of a combination of a few things. One is something that's a terribly good problem to have, in that we have filled more positions, and we've had our positions filled much more than we ever had in past years. Right now, we only have one open corrections deputy position and 2 open sheriff's positions. So we've had years where we've had 10 plus positions open, and this year we've kept all our employees and have been filling positions in. The second issue that we've had is that we've had a slew of injuries, both in the corrections side of the house and the sheriff's side of the house. Obviously, you guys know about Tim and Sean getting hurt in the sort mission and taking them out, and we've had a few other people that have had injuries due to wrestling with bad guys and other issues. And so having 6+ people on the patrol side that have been out with injuries and having to meet minimum staffing has caused some overtime issues. We've had the same issue on the corrections side of the house, where we've had at least 5 or 6 people who have been out at once and having to meet minimum staffings in order to keep the jail open. And then on top of that, of course, you know that we had the recent homicide, which has caused a significant amount of overtime, primarily because it's a much more difficult homicide than some of the ones in the past. It was an unknown person to us. They were not from the county, and it takes a lot more man hours in order to try and identify people and to solve that type of crime. And then, of course, we had the shooting investigation in Grays Harbor County and a couple other things. So when you put all those things together and combine that with the fact that we've usually covered the shortfall in the amount of overtime that we received by some of our contracts, such as we usually receive around $80,000 to $120,000 from the school district, which we did not receive this year, obviously due to COVID and the schools not being open. And then as well as some of our community contracts as well, which pay for a lot of that overtime that the county doesn't have to pay for. And so I think when you put all of those things together, it's kind of just the perfect storm this year of positions are filled, overtime had to be paid because of injuries to staff, and some of those revenue shortfalls that we haven't had in past years.
You guys have,
in what you're sending over, will you also be showing us the unexpended budget in wages for positions that have been open?
I can send those as separate detail. I have it as an aggregate, but I can send it as a separate detail.
Thank you, Sheryl.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you guys have had a difficult time this year.
Well, I think everybody has had their own challenges in this particular year. So yeah, we're weathering ours, and we want to keep you up to date and know what's going on exactly and why.
Right, I appreciate that.
Yeah, same here.
Thank you.
So I'll also schedule some time with Jennifer to go over the spreadsheet in detail so that we all are on the same page and understand it, but happy to answer any other questions after you take a look at that.
Great. Thank you.
Sounds great.
And that's all I have.
All right,
Very good.
that was easy enough. All right, commissioners, do we have anything else?
I do not.
No. All right, well, I guess we will adjourn.
See you back at 2.
Be back at 2.
See you then.
Thank you.